Hello plant community, my name is Pam and thanks for tuning into this channel. If you are new here guys, welcome, and welcome to all because I'm excited to start this new series that I'm trying out, and I title it Curiosity Grew the Plant. And I figured the more that we know, the more we grow. The more information we find out about our plants, maybe we'll be better armored and suited to properly care for them. But I want to take this opportunity in this series to kind of put spotlight or emphasis on plants that may not be spoken about as much. And I plan on doing it maybe one episode a month. I'm not quite sure how I want to do it yet, but I'm really excited. And I really would appreciate you guys' feedback for this particular series. If you like it, if you're interested in what we're covering in this particular segment, would you like to see more, maybe recommendations or suggestions on any other plants that you would like to see in the episode. But thank you just for hanging in there with me. So the first plant that I'm picking for our very first episode of Curiosity Grew the Plant, let me pick it up, and this thing is heavy. You've seen it in my collection before, and this is the Fatsia Japonica. And I wanted this plant, you guys, to be part of the first part of my series because I feel like it's a very beautiful plant and a very underrated plant where a lot of people aren't really talking about it, but it's beautiful for obvious reasons, I think, and I could go on and on about this plant, but I just wanted to share some things that I found out about this plant. It is a flowering plant in the Araceae family, and Fatsia actually comes from the word Fatsi, which is Japanese for the the number 8, which refers to the 8 points on the leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think. The 8 tips that you see on the leaves. And Japonica represents the origin of the plant, which is southern Japan or South Korea. And this is an evergreen shrub where under the right conditions it can grow between 10 to 15 feet tall. There are many varieties of this plant, but there are 2 common varieties. The first one would be the variegata. This variety has large green leaves with cream edges. I'm going to try to post a picture somewhere of that plant so you can see. And the other common variety is the spider web. And this is the one that I actually have in my collection. If you take a quick look, it has leaves is variegated with white at the edges, giving the appearance of a spider web on the leaves, as you would see in this plant. Well, excuse me, in this leaf. Now, this plant typically blooms, it's my understanding it blooms in fall. I haven't had a chance to have this bloom. I believe I've had this plant in my collection not almost a year, but it's grown dramatically, but I have not had the opportunity for it to bloom. I'm going to try to see if I can find some photos of what the actual blooms look like, and I'll share with you somewhere on the screen for you guys. Now, they are traditionally clusters of white balls at the tip of the stem. They remind me of dandelions. If you guys know dandelions, when they turn white and how we used to blow them to make a wish when we were kids. That's the feel that I get when I see the blooms on this plant. Now, they also produce, is my understanding, black berries. Now, I wasn't able to find too much information on whether or not if those berries was toxic to humans. But I did find out that it's very beautiful, tasty treat for your birds. So if you, I guess, want to have birds around, you probably could have this sitting outside on your patio under like I guess a shaded top, but no direct sun. Now, how do you care for this Fatsia Japonica? Let's start off with the soil. Now, this plant prefers a well-draining soil, as they all do for our tropical plants. If you purchase this plant, I recommend that you keep it in the soil mixture that it's in. Now, like I said to you guys, I have not had this plant for a year yet, and I have not changed the soil. It tends to like it, and from what I can see, the soil here has a mixture of your regular potting mix mixed with a whole lot of orchid bark. And I want to say, maybe not a regular potting mix, maybe now that I'm feeling it, it could be just like that cocoa coir mixed with, it is mixed with your orchid bark mixture. I'm not really seeing a lot of perlite. It may be just like a dash of perlite in here, but it tends to love it, and I don't want to change the planting medium just yet. And when it do come time for me to actually repot this, I probably would do so by mimicking the soil that is already in. I don't want to make any changes to shock the plant. Now that does bring us to repotting. Now they recommend that you repot this plant between every 2 to 3 years. But like I said, I don't really plan on repotting it no time soon. Now the water. What I definitely noticed about this plant is you don't want to let this plant dry out. This plant is not really all that forgiving with drying out. If you miss the watering to that extent, or let the plant completely dry out, you will start this plant will start to develop a lot of crispiness to the leaves. Now luckily, I've only had one leaf that I pulled off that was completely crispy, and that's because I try not to let the soil dry out no more than 1 inch of the soil. Now how do you test the inch of the soil? Remember the knuckle test, you guys, the knuckle test. First knuckle indicating 1 inch, second knuckle indicating 2 inches of the soil. So you just stick your finger in there, and if it's dry after that first inch, I recommend you start giving it water. Now light, this plant can handle some hours of direct light. I haven't really had it in direct light, but only some hours, you guys. It can't be 6 or more hours or so, because you will burn or damage the leaves. Now, I'm currently keeping the plant in the corner where it's receiving bright light from my Sansi light, and it tends to love that spot. And I have to be mindful to rotate this plant every so often, because if you look at it a little bit, it's more leaning to the front on this side, but the back is pretty much standing upright. And I think it's because I do forget to rotate the plant sometimes, but I recommend rotating the plant every time you water it to make sure that it's even out. Now if you're fertilizing this plant, you should fertilize through the growing season. However, for me, as long as I see that the plant is providing new growth, I will continue to fertilize using about 1/4 strength of the recommended dosage. Now pest, I have not, knock on my, I don't have any wood. Let's see. Yeah, I do. There we go. Knock on wood, I have not had any experiences of pests with this plant so far, but common pests can be scale, aphids, mealybugs, and spider mites. Now, don't let the potential of pests deter you from trying this plant out. As we do with all our tropical plants, you guys, if you create a form of a pre-pest management for your plants, luckily and hopefully you won't see any signs of these things. So I recommend probably doing quarterly. They say do it every time you water your plants, but realistically speaking, guys, who really takes the time, especially if you're growing your collection gets large, you really don't have the time to really thoroughly inspect your plants like you every time you water. That would just be an unrealistic goal, right? So I would recommend, for me in my collection, I'm really doing it at least, honestly, probably once a month. I was going to say quarterly, but yeah, I'm doing it at least once a month. And like I said, I haven't had any issues with this plant. So I'm just going to give you guys one last look of this beautiful plant. It's very rewarding. I love the foliage. I love the subtleness of that white on the leaves. I love the shape of the leaves. I get a tree-like forest feel, and I'm just in love with that foliage. So this wraps it up, you guys, for the very first episode of Curiosity Grew the Plant. As I made a mention earlier on in the video, if you guys kind of like this kind of thing, please let me know below, because I would love to. I do plan on continuing to do this type of thing. I just have to figure out what plants I feel that may not be spoken about as often as you see on all social media platforms, or that sought after plant that everybody looks for. Because you know, this channel is about us growing together in the plant community, but it's also us growing about all types of different types of plants. And so I want to share my knowledge with you. I am very interested in learning fun little facts and tips and tricks about plants, and if you do too, please let me know below. But yeah, you guys, that pretty much wraps up this season or segment. Keep in mind, you guys, if you love foliage as much as I do and you love listening to planty things, hit that subscribe button for me. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Once again, I appreciate any support you guys can give me. Enjoy your day wherever you are in the world. And until next time, guys, much love. Isn't that a beautiful plant?